Halloween
Forever.
It's time, boys and ghouls, for a fucking Halloween is Forever October slobber knocker, guys. Welcome to it. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve.
Guys, I don't know if you've checked your phone today. I don't know if you've looked at your calendar. It's fucking October. It's the first Monday in October, and we are here to fucking rage, guys. We are doing our second, now we can officially say, annual John Carpenter Showdown. We'll see how many years we can milk this out for. This is our second one.
Honestly, I think this is the last one.
Yeah, I was like, we did.
I think we got one good one more. I think we got one more good one in us.
Oh, Brian, I do have to add though. I was like, when I was at work today, one of my coworkers was just hanging out, and he kept saying like, "No, it's October 1st. We can officially start celebrating Halloween." And I brought you up, and I was like, "No," I was like, "My podcast mate, his birthday's in August, and I'm pretty sure we start celebrating back in August."
Bitch, I've been at it for a month and a half.
Like we've already been going strong here, bro.
Yeah. I am a little late to the party. I do not have all my decorations up yet because I've had 2 consecutive just like hellish weeks of work where I think I've probably worked like 200 hours in the last 2 weeks, including weekends. And
I
it's just been
expect
chaos.
every time we record and via video that your room that you record in will get darker and more covered in spider webs. And I'm a little disappointed, but hey, you should have put the girls on it.
Yeah, it's actually the inverse because I have so many Halloween decorations that stay up in my office year round, and some of them do migrate to other areas of the house. So my office becomes less spooky at Halloween, but the rest of the house becomes exponentially more spookified.
You do go all out, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I got to get that all my outside stuff and everything up. Like I said, I've been traveling for work for like 2 weeks, and it's been an absolute pain.
I think you
need
to call in tomorrow and tell them like how important it is that you decorate your house. You know, don't even hold back and just be very honest about it.
I'm not even gonna call in. I'm just gonna put up an away message on my email and said like doing spooky shit. Like fuck off doing spooky shit.
I think those are acceptable terms, and if they're not, then you need to get a better job.
I'll be out of the office for the week.
I'd be out of the office, busy doing spooks and ooks all around the house. So leave me the fuck alone. I am done with that. It's fine. Listen, I'm not complaining. It was a lot of fun, but we spent 6 sessions and a whole week leading up to it. We hosted a big, like about 1,200 people for a big giant Oktoberfest celebration in beautiful Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, right up the street from the where they do Blobfest at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, where they shot scenes from the original version of the Blob. So our tent was right up the street there, but we had this big giant thing, and it was a lot of fun, but a lot of lugging kegs around and setting up tents and tearing down tents and all type of manner of stuff. But it was fun.
Brian,
but
I have such a good idea for you. I think you need custom lederhosen.
I was thought you were going to suggest I kill myself, and then I was going to say, okay, maybe.
I think we can tell where you're at, Brian, today.
You
took a real hard turn there.
Yeah.
No, what I think is you need custom lederhosen that are all spookified. I think you need like a pumpkin right over, the dick pocket thing, where you can hide stuff.
Yeah, that's how they in Germany. That's what it translates to is dick pocket.
I'm dick and pocket.
Yeah.
No,
it means it's. I think it's.
I'm just so envious of what you can hide in there.
Wiener pocket, I think is the way they pronounce it. Yeah.
Hard V.
Yeah, Wiener pocket.
Versatile.
Yeah, but listen, I'm not complaining, but I am not drinking beer right now because like I said, I probably drank about, probably 6 liters of Helles yesterday as I was just running around. Just got to keep the old blood sugar up, But I am drinking a cup of coffee so I don't die. But I got a little pumpkin spice in there, as you might imagine, a little pumpkin spice creamer. So your boy's out there with the Ugg boots on.
Did we get any comments from anyone about the pumpkin spice cum from last week? Did we get any comments? Because I had friends actually listen to that.
No, I did get some cease and desist. I got a couple of restraining order requests, but.
You're now on a watch list.
Yeah, I'm on a list somewhere. The FBI is like, this guy is got something terribly wrong with him. He's going to do some sort of damage to society.
Did you have scientists reach out to you? Because I honestly think that would be the most intriguing
well,
thing.
I already sell it on the Silk Road. I already sell it. So, they can do with it. They can find it. It's out there if they want it. Let's put it that way.
It's called Starbucks.tour. Brian bought that domain name on the Onion browser.
When I said pumpkin spice creamer, what I meant is I squeezed one out in my own coffee right before we came on here. All right, what are you guys drinking?
Should never die. I'm pretty stoked. I stopped by a distributor and I love from working at Southern Tier Brewing Company. One of my old favorites was Harvest. They're like fall IPA that they put out. Mm-hmm. So I'm sipping on one of them boys tonight.
Ooh. Yeah, I like that beer too. It's kind of like isn't it kind of like an Englishy variety IPA? Like it's got some American hops, but it's got some like British like crystal malt maybe or something.
It definitely has some crystal malt, and so it has those vibes. But I feel like even just from when I used to, it feels less bitter than it used to. And so I kind of get the hints of like the old English style where it's definitely a little bit more malty. We got more malt character going on, but like the hop bitterness is lower. The hop character seems a little bit more modern, but
they're neutering the beer. Sons of bitches.
Still
all those kids out here, everything's got to be sweet and candy-ish. We can't have an old-fashioned melt your fucking enamel off your teeth IPA
us about buying Gloop Glop beers.
It was $20 a 4-pack. Think of the savings.
I don't even know what savings that means because you already said $20 for a 4-pack, and I'm like, that's way above my budget.
Well, yeah, that's out of your budget. Okay, and that's out of my budget, which is why I don't buy that shit. But it's usually like 30.
Oh.
So it's like you say
there is no beer in existence that is worth $30 for. They'll put it this way: there is no beer that exists in a 4-pack 16-ounce can that is worth those dollars.
No,
I will flat out say it. I have spent that much on old bottles of goose and stuff like that, but they're like you know, multiple years old, and they were conditioned and they were blended and then bottled and then set aside, and like there was a lot of cost that goes into doing all that stuff, but just
the breweries existed before 1980 and
they before 1880, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they've been around forever. They know what they're doing, not just some couple of fucking jabronis in flat brim hats that decided they were gonna buy fucking stock and puree.
All right, well, I think I'll make you guys happy.
I'm ornery. I'm getting my coffee in me. I'm getting all horned up and mad. And
I'll make you guys happy, though. I am splitting the difference between the two of you.
Okay.
Because earlier in the year, Meg gave me a little fucking airplane bottle of Southern Tier pumpkin whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, Meg, I'm not drinking this because it's fucking July and I don't drink this until October.
Yeah.
But we've done the transition.
We have.
So I've taken this little airplane bottle of pumpkin and I've mixed it with a can of cold brew coffee that I picked up.
Is it the PBR cold brew coffee too? So
no.
Real fucked up tonight.
No, it's just like this thing called, I bought it at Big Lots. It was $1.
Okay.
Big Lots. Fuck with Big Lots.
But it's a cold brew coffee with oat milk, and then that's why I bought it, because I like the oat milk. That actually isn't that good, and then the pumpkin isn't good either. But surprisingly together, they're not too terrible.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And this is what I've been trying to tell my kids, guys. Sometimes two wrongs do make a right.
It happens.
Yeah, sometimes.
But not in this case.
But in this case, slightly righter. Yeah,
I don't know if I would agree with that. I mean, I'd be curious to try.
You don't know. You're not drinking it. You're not drinking it, Meg. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I actually think that I disagree with the fact that you like it, and I think that you don't like it.
You're right. I think I know better.
I insist that you don't like
He just
it.
doesn't want me to ever say
This
something that you
is
agree with.
Meg starting her mind games early.
Oh yeah, she's already fucking.
She's trying to
with us.
convince me like somehow
You're
that
the
I don't
one
even like
who
Halloween.
decided to drink something that I gave you as a gift, Steve.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
gifted
and it's
that
bad.
to you.
Like it's bad on its own.
No,
And you gave it to me because you know it's bad
I gave
on
it
its
out of
own.
love, right? I gave it out of love.
You gave it as a white elephant gift to him. All right, guys.
It was
Listen,
a
this is
leftover gift, actually.
Yeah,
Re-gifted.
see?
this is going to be my role this entire episode here. So let me really quickly remind you, especially this time of year, we got a whole bunch of new listeners. So I'll explain to you how this works. One time a month, we do one of these here Showdown episodes where we usually draw from a bunch of random, listener suggested topics, but in this instance, it is in fact October. It's spooky season. So we started this tradition with our first October last year where we put all of John Carpenter's horror and horror adjacent type of films onto a big old spinning wheel. And then we each just get randomly assigned one, and then we have to defend it. Now, last year, the first time we did this, we legitimately got 3 of his absolute worst movies of all time. I was gifted with Ghosts of Mars. Meg, you had
Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned. Yeah, I wanted to say Children of the Corn too. You got Village of the Damned, and then Steve ended up with, what was it called again?
The Ward.
Which was a real piece of stink shit, and they all were poopy, and but it was fun to talk about them. And Meg ended up basically having the least worst movie last year. This year, very different story. So I got first one of the last kind of odd man out films that were on our John Carpenter wheel, which is Assault on Precinct 13, which is really more of a exploitation crime thriller drama type situation with some fairly intense violence, but it's by no means is it horror.
It rides the line interestingly, and we'll talk about it when we get into it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So I drew that first, and then after that, promptly Steve and Meg drew John Carpenter's most famous and most celebrated films right after that, which Steve got Halloween 1978, and Meg got, of course, The Thing 1982. So here's what that means. You boys fucked. I ain't gonna win this, and that's fine. I ain't gonna vote for my movie over either of those two because those are literally my 2 favorite movies. So this ended up being kind of like a what that WrestleMania, and I'm gonna say 1997,
96, 97. It's WrestleMania 14.
Yeah, whatever one that is. One of those mid-90s ones where it was DX versus Stone Cold feud happening, and Mike Tyson came in as the special guest referee. And then I believe knocked out Shawn Michaels at some point. It was a whole thing.
Yes.
Spoiler alert for WrestleMania 1996. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand here as fat, out of shape Mike Tyson in the mid 90s. And I am going to essentially decide who brings this home. So these are my 2 favorite movies on the planet. And we will see. I
think you've been living for this moment.
Yeah, this is very serendipitous.
Instigate both of us, and you know what? I'm excited. I'm going to
learn a lot about myself because I have told since I was a child, I've said Halloween 1978 is my favorite movie. I have watched it a bajillion times. I love it so much. In recent years, The Thing has really creeped up on it. And I would consider it probably my second favorite movie, but boy, they're pretty close to neck and neck these days. Every time I watch The Thing, I appreciate it more and more. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So Steve and Meg are going to talk about the movies. I'm going to talk about mine probably right off the bat, unless there's any objections to that, just to get it out of the way.
No. I was going to say, just as champ, I'll decide the order, and of course the order will be Brian will go first.
He said, nope, do not even talk about that. I will tell you. But yes, it will be that.
Yeah. But yeah, then I'll go second, and Meg will close it out.
All right. Well, there you go.
Wrap it up. Save the best for last.
So at the end, assuming they both vote for their own movie, then I will have the tie-breaking vote to see who takes home that son of a bitch and strap for the month of October. One other quick thing I would ask you to do if you're joining us for the first time during this spooky season, and you like this show, please go ahead and follow us over on the social medias. If you go ahead and follow at Halloween is Forever, or just, search Halloween is Forever on any of them social media platforms, you'll find us. Give us a follow over there. We post a bunch of spooky shit. And if you like the show and you want to go on the Apple Podcasts or on the Sportsifys and give us a little 5-star review and say, hey, like the show, thanks a whole bunch. If you're interested, shoot me a DM. Say, hey, I reviewed you on there. I left you a little nice note and 5 stars. We'll send you some bitchin' Halloween is Forever stickers in the mail. How's that sound? Does that sound good for everybody? Get on it. All right.
Sounds like
You're
a deal.
probably sitting with your fucking phone right now. Come on, don't be a dick. All right. So I will jump into this first and I will talk like I said, I'm going to be pretty brief because, again, I understand this is the undercard, right? The main event is Halloween versus The Thing. So this is the undercard. I get it. Don't rub it in. But we are going to talk a little bit about Assault on Precinct 13. So this movie's from 1976. Had you guys seen this movie before?
I actually hadn't.
Not.
Really? I had seen it maybe once or twice before. It was kind of, I feel like for a little while, hard to find, like when I was younger. And then it's on YouTube now. So, I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. It's probably streaming in other places and stuff.
It's on Tubi is where I watched it.
Is it on Tubi? Okay. I ended up just watching it on YouTube. Yeah, so I'll give you a little quick, like I said, it's more of like a thriller exploitation crime drama type of thing. So I guess before I talk about the plot, which I'm just going to kind of high level on and talk about a few of my favorite scenes, because on the whole, my opinion of this flick is it is an entertaining, fun, like violent exploitation type of film that was shot on a shoestring budget. I think the idea here, now this was John Carpenter's one of his first feature-length films. Dark Star, I think, is for most folks considered to be his first feature-length film. That was literally a student film that was kind of, got some funding beyond that. But this movie was shortly thereafter, and it was supposedly made for under $100,000. But the whole idea was they were giving John Carpenter, full creative control. So he wrote the script, he directed it, he wrote the music, which I'll be honest with you, the music's probably the high point of the film. It does rule. It lends so much atmosphere. It lends so much mood to the movie. That's a hallmark of John Carpenter movies. I just want to even make a point, because I feel like all of our movies have this thing, and I think what makes John Carpenter such an amazing director is that I think he understands how influential music is to the film. And so, like, I think all of ours across the board would be like my one positive thing for all of us. Everything's iconic. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's distinctive. You're going to remember it. And so, anywho. I mean, think about Christine without the soundtrack. Right. There would be scenes that would be absolutely fucking lame, but you add the music into it and it's, dread inducing. Halloween, same way. Like there are scenes that would just be funny, like without it almost, but then you add the music and you're like, oh fuck, this just got really sinister. So hallmark of John Carpenter movies is all, if he's doing the music, he's going to knock it out of the park. Do you know who he worked with on that one? Because it seems like he does find really amazing composers to work with. Oh, he does. He composes them. He did it. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, for the mine, he worked with someone to create the sound. On yours, he worked with Ennio Morricone. Yeah. So I didn't know if he worked with someone on either of yours, but no. Keep going. No. He composed it on both. But yeah, isn't that the guy from Goblin? No. That's the guy. That's the guy from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Oh, yes. That's right. Yeah. Spaghetti westerns before this. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was thinking of what the heck is the guy who did all the that was in Goblin, did the music for coming up to Demons and stuff like that. Dang it.
He's they're
Simonetti,
doing
Claudio Simonetti.
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
is that who
Yeah.
they're doing like they've been doing a lot of the live shows and stuff too, right?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome. I just heard Italian name and I heard boopity boppy boopity boopy, and I was like, oh yeah, same guy.
Your hand just instantly started doing the, this is amazing.
The fuck. So have you either of you guys watched the remake of this?
No.
The 2005
No.
remake?
No.
I did not either. It has Ethan Hawke in it and Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
So like it has good people. It might be worth a watch. I don't know, but I feel like 2005 movies aren't quite cool again yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the 90s ones are now the ones, a few years ago, everyone was like, oh, 80s horror rules. And like, obviously that's still happening very much. Now, all of a sudden, all these like cringy 90s horror movies, everyone's like, oh, 90s horror is the shit now. But we haven't really got to a place where people are nostalgic for 2005 yet. But
Right.
it's
Now we have
coming
all these
very
kids
soon.
from like 2000 that were born from 2000 on calling like 90s movies classics, and you're like, oh god.
Dude, I was at that
Oh,
Oktoberfest all
I
weekend,
understand on
and
my parents' fault.
a couple of times, I was in charge of checking people in at the gate and checking their IDs. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I have baseball cards that are older than all y'all motherfuckers. I felt old as hell. But
yeah,
yes.
I think another movie that like kind of fell into that era for me, and it's like why I didn't watch Assault on Precinct 13, the remake or the original, is there was The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh my God.
And that remake is so fucking terrible. And
That's
then you watch
straight
the original.
poop.
The original it's well acted, but it's also a dumb movie. So it's like
Yeah, it's dumb. The remake of that one was genuinely awful.
yeah. So I was turned off by that because there was that whole period in the 2000s where like we're gonna remake old 70s, and I'm like, oh
Yeah. And we were like Starsky and Hutch and fucking Charlie's Angels and every other thing like on
like,
it.
ugh.
Those were all picked. So they were like, all right, let's pick some like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here for 70s shit to remake.
Yeah.
But
So the one thing I wanted to talk about with this film is like I already said how it kind of rides the line of being a horror almost. And just watching this, and I watched it for the first time, but just watching it, I was like, this is absolutely a quiet remake of Night of the Living Dead.
100%. Yep. And John Carpenter has even said that this movie was highly influenced by Night of the Living Dead and like a lot of spaghetti westerns.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
He basically said it's like a cross between like a spaghetti western and Night of the Living Dead.
I didn't realize that, but that makes total sense for like even just like the pace of it as well.
Yeah. See, we talked about this a little bit when we were talking Barbarian, and Brian, you said how you weren't a fan of the director Barbarian, the way he talks about his films.
Yeah.
And I have this thing where I don't listen to filmmakers because of that reason. Like I've been that way for a long time, so I've really know.
There
feel
are
like you've
certain
said that
ones
before,
I can
dude.
there are some that I can stomach, but there's a lot like what's the fucking guy who did Requiem for a Dream and all that? Like
Darren Aronofsky.
I want to punch his
take
face.
him. Yeah.
But the guy who did oh my gosh, I just was about to say his name and then I lost it. It's the guy who did Edgar Wright.
Okay.
I actually do like to listen to Edgar Wright. Like
Sure.
he does a good job. I love to listen to Joe Dante talk. I love me some Joe Dante. There's a few other ones, but yeah. Like you're rolling the dice because you might just start to hate them and their movies after that.
And see, I just don't roll that dice, and I've never done it with John Carpenter. But so like, yeah, that's cool that he's actually said it. But I as watching this, I was just making notes. I was like, okay, there's a black lead, just like Night of the Living Dead. There's a catatonic blonde who is kind of the kickoff. There's a dead child, and then there's the one shot where we'll get more into the plot, but there's the one shot of the cars on the wide flat angle approaching the precinct.
Oh yes,
and it looks so much like the zombie horde approaching the house.
Well, and it's even the one where like the dad gets chased to the precinct. You know, they have all of them kind of like showing up on the horizon, basically. Actually, that reminds me more of Prince of Darkness, you know, with like the homeless people outside. But it you know, definitely, you know, the encroaching horde on the horizon type of thing is definitely there. Yeah, this movie did not particularly well in terms of box office in the US, but it did really well at the 1977 London Film Festival. And that's kind of what started to get it this like critical acclaim. And then it kind of became big in Europe. And then ultimately, started to gain this kind of cult following. And then, of course, the kind of critical reappraisals that come on the end of that, where it's like, oh, those people liked it, well, maybe I like it too. They start to look through it through a different lens. Which the same thing happened with Halloween, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But like, it was getting terrible reviews till all of a sudden it got a really positive review in the Village Voice, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, this is fucking genius. You know what I mean? But it does have a lot of future Halloween alum as well. So as far as the cast is concerned, the Charles Cyphers, who plays Starker in this, plays Sheriff Brackett in Halloween 1 and 2, and just the first two, right? And then Nancy
Loomis.
Yeah, Nancy Loomis. She's now Nancy Keys, I think. But anyway, she plays Julie in this movie, and she was, of course,
she's Annie.
Annie. Yeah. Oh my God. All I could think of was PJ Souls for some reason.
That's Linda.
Yeah. She plays Annie. My God, my brain is not working right now. And then there was a couple of other people. Obviously. Oh man, there was one other one I'll think about him that was kind of showed up in a lesser role in Halloween. But yeah, you see some of those familiar faces from the kind of John Carpenter universe of the future at this point. So yeah, so I mean the general, I'll give you a high level kind of plot synopsis here, and then I did want to talk about a few scenes that were, I think, genuinely effective. But like I said, for the most part, it feels like a pretty decent, like well shot, low budget, really greasy, grimy exploitation, violent exploitation crime movie. But here's the synopsis, right? So an unlikely partnership between a highway patrol officer, two criminals, and a station secretary is formed to defend a defunct Los Angeles precinct office against a siege by a bloodthirsty street gang. And
that's
when they say
like an interesting description of it too, bloodthirsty too. You know what I mean?
I mean, and they are like so much so really high level. What like the inciting incident is, which, forgive me, maybe I missed this because I was half asleep when I was watching it this time around, but I never figured out why, aside from the fact that they were members of a street gang, the inciting incident here is that a bunch of cops basically massacre a bunch of gang members, basically trap them in like a narrow alleyway and just shotgun them like St. Valentine's Day Massacre style. But they never really explain why, aside from the fact that they're gang members. Did I miss why the cops were doing that? I mean, besides just like street warfare kind of thing?
I think it was they were going after like armament, and then they get that armament anyway.
Yeah, they were getting all the like pistols and assault rifles and shit that were like in the boxes and stuff. But like they don't explain it or set it up. And it's the opening scene of the movie.
I'm almost curious if there's like more of a time and place of like what's going on just socially. Like I don't really know John Carpenter like to do a lot of social commentary.
I mean, I guess like LA and New York, like street crime. Like street crime
That's
on the
kind of
rise
how I interpret it, is honestly
was certainly a bigger thing. Like this was, when was the whole like New York like subway vigilante killings? Like when did that wasn't that like 75?
The vigilante killings, or
like the guy that was out there?
Oh, Bernie Getz.
Yeah.
I thought that was like 70s or 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that before that? Anyway, some of this stuff was definitely in the zeitgeist, and this idea of like people taking back their community from crime and, and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, purely an exploitation film. So typically speaking, you're going to have a lot of like, not even necessarily like deep social commentary as much as like, let's exploit what people are currently scared of. You know what I mean?
It had this like primitive vibe, like especially like right after that scene happened and we meet the four guys, right? It was four of them that were like doing like the blood oath type thing. Like let's stab ourselves.
And one of them gets killed in that initial.
Yeah.
thing, right?
So it has this almost primitive because they don't talk at
Right.
all.
No,
So,
it's
like,
just this understanding, and you're meant to figure out what the fuck is actually happening here.
yeah, but somehow it feels familiar though.
Yeah, well, it's also a play on like zombies because like they
Sure.
never have any lines or anything. It's just like
Sure.
screaming and hollering as people come through the windows or they're shot down. Like it's never, they never have any lines or anything. So it's more of a dehumanization towards those characters.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's all just an understanding of like we're gonna go out and cause havoc.
yeah. Yeah,
But it
and
has
so,
a purpose almost in a way though.
well, it's like we're going to get revenge on the police force for, killing like half a dozen or 8 or something of like the gang members. But then the like final remaining like leaders of the gang do this like blood oath where they cut themselves and then, put all their blood into a little pot. And, this is like their blood pact that they're going to, seek revenge on the police force and apparently just young children and
Just everybody.
yeah, ice cream men as well. But anyway, yeah. So this kind of leads into one of the scenes that I wanted to talk about, which is probably the most like maybe not the most tense, but definitely the most like disturbing scene, I would say. And certainly in 1976, it probably came across even more so, which is where, the 3 remaining, gang leaders, they have just done their blood oath, blood pact thing, whatever. And they're just out there cruising for people to shoot, basically. They go up to a ice cream truck, pull the driver out. And this guy definitely acts like a zombie. The tall white guy, like fair-haired white guy, he just walks up beside the truck, and it's almost like the truck just happened to be there, and the guy's in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? But otherwise, it shows a lot of intention. But he's like act very robotic and stiff in his movements, and very, very like emotionless. And the whole idea is he pulls the gentleman who's driving the ice cream truck out. I did not remember this scene, and I was like, does this get like sexual here? Because he like sticks his fingers in the guy's mouth, and then he has like a Ruger with a silencer on it that he also inserts in his mouth while his fingers are still in his mouth. I was like, I don't remember this. It's pretty gross because the guy's like, you can look at him and kind of guess what his fingers smell like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't want that in my mouth. Anyway, so he eventually pistol whips him and then just shoots him in the back, laying on the ground. There is a dad with his daughter who looks to be maybe like 8 or 9 years old. And she comes and had just gotten a scoop of ice cream, but got the wrong flavor or whatever, comes over and says like, hey, I ordered vanilla twist or whatever. And the guy just turns and shoots the kid in the chest, and the squib pops, and the kid does a pretty good job of like having this kind of like surprised face kind of thing.
She probably was.
Yeah.
Because she's a kid and she's never had a squib go off on her.
Yeah, it did. It was pretty, but otherwise the kid looks cartoonish.
Yeah.
Like it's like they went to this like, and they went to, the costume people, and they were like, okay, dress this child up like they're in like a fucking fairy tale, you know what I mean, or something like that.
It's like I keep the name Heidi keeps coming to my name, like
Pippi Longstockings or something.
Yeah. Because she has the pigtails and she has like the goofy dress, and like it's the most innocent but also like cartoonish, way.
Yeah. She's like human Raggedy Ann almost.
She's like
it's
Cindy Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's Cindy Brady. They fucking blow away Cindy Brady.
Yeah, she just gets fucking smoked. And then the dad comes up and he's all upset. And then in his dying breath, the ice cream man tells the dad there's a gun under the dash of the ice cream truck. So he goes and gets this snub nose 38 and goes after the guys in their truck. Guy gets out with an assault rifle, hip firing it just like a real fucking psycho, and then the dad pulls off this unbelievable shot with the snub-nosed 38, which this is what you would call like a belly gun. Like this is a close quarters gun.
Yeah.
And he shoots him from what could be, you don't exactly see, but 20 yards right through the heart with him. But he's clearly just firing willy-nilly and then keeps clicking it after all the chambers are empty. But yeah, he apparently shoots him right through the damn heart. And the guy just does the old robotic fall down dead situation. So and then he gets chased to the precinct by the rest of the gang and then becomes, kind of a part of the folks that are holed up in the precinct. So but that was probably the best, scenes that because the whole thing with the ice cream truck happens in broad daylight, like right in the middle of the afternoon. But this town, and I don't know exactly where they shot this. Like, obviously they didn't go find like a big set or anything. If it's $100,000 budget, it's supposed to take place in like South Central LA. I wonder if they did shoot it in a neighborhood like that, because this neighborhood looks like deserted almost.
Yeah, abandoned, not built up.
But the thing about this is, and this is probably the biggest downfall of the movie, this is one example of this, but several examples exist, is where like you just see the seams a lot in the shooting, where it's like, okay, you see this neighborhood, there's no one on the street, there's no other cars, there's no activity, there's no nothing. And then you have this like unbelievably white bread looking father and daughter who look like they just like walked out of Sunday services or something like that.
Well, that's explained though, Brian, because they say they're on their way to pick up the father's mother, because there's a little dialogue between him and his daughter, and they're talking about moving grandma out of a bad neighborhood.
Oh, that's right.
So they do recognize that they're heading into a bad neighborhood to get grandma out. But you never even see grandma. She has to find this shit out secondhand.
Yeah. You know what though? That would have been a great sequel where like Granny with a shotgun style, like
that should have been the real Death Wish.
Yeah.
Granny with
an old person with nothing to lose.
It's just Charles Bronson, but he's doing that thing that Ernest does, where he puts that old woman's costume with the neck brace. But it's Charles Bronson.
With the neck brace and the string of pearls and the shitty wig.
I mean that's probably my favorite scene. And then after that, the kind of revenge scene with the with the father. But then he just he's in a car, he gets out, dodges bullets, shoots the guy through the heart, and then doesn't get in his car and leaves, just stumbles away. I mean, I get it. He's in shock. He does not, doesn't have his wits about him. But it's just, it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. And then really the vast majority of the movie, not the vast majority, but the majority of the movie, certainly the second half of the movie takes place within this precinct where they don't have any contact with the outside world. They're in this isolated neighborhood, and then all these street gangs are just basically siege upon the precinct, and they're trying to keep them out. You end up sitting there watching a lot of windows breaking and gunshot noises. That feels like it goes on quite a bit. Ultimately you do have some surprise kind of cast members that die that maybe you don't expect to die or something, but otherwise it is a very solid 70s exploitation crime movie. But certainly nowhere near the top of my list as far as John Carpenter flicks are concerned.
Totally. It's very obvious this is his first film, but for a first film it's still way better than what a lot of other people make.
Oh, well, he did a ton. He did so much with so little. I mean, and that's the real thing. That's the real thing that makes it special and memorable is he did a lot with a little. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the guy playing Napoleon Wilson. His name's Darwin Jostin. I don't really recognize him from much. Otherwise,
he was in I was poking around IMDb because I knew him from something, and I found it and I can't remember what it was. He's in The Fog, and then he's also in Eraserhead.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So those are the ones I recognize his face from. But there was a TV show that I feel like I already also knew him from too. Let me see what else he did. Oh, well, that makes sense. He did a lot of episodes, like just little cameo spots in a bunch of different like 70s and 80s sitcoms. He was on Alf. He was on Hill Street Blues. He was on Knight Rider. He was on Remington Steele, Spencer, Airwolf. I don't know what Time Walker is.
Neither do I.
Gunman's Blues. I don't know that either. Yeah, like I said, he was in small character in The Fog and Eraserhead. Yeah. He was a character actor. He did a lot of stuff. But like, what did you feel about like his character? Because like it feels like he's supposed to be playing this. He's a criminal and he's like in jail for murder. Yeah. And he's supposed to be playing like this suave, debonair, almost Max Cady like. Yeah, I almost thought it was kind of like he was. Max Cady is a better example, but in my mind I almost was like they almost tried to make him seem like he was Hannibal Lecter-ish a little bit, right? In that he was like supposed to be a little bit smarter than the average criminal, a little bit more savvy, and then of course he has the kind of whole escape attempt and all that stuff. So like he's this hyper dangerous kind of career criminal.
And he's supposed to be like charismatic, but at the same time, like I don't know, he just wasn't like. I didn't feel like he was handsome enough to pull this off. He's kind of like weird looking.
He's just he's like really greasy. Like his hair's really greasy. He didn't. You know who he reminded me of is like a younger. Obviously, he's not the same person because this was years later. But if you took the guy who played, and I forget his name, the dad that wants to stay in the basement in Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Like he looks like him almost, but younger and with more hair and that sort of thing. But that's who I kept seeing when I looked at him. But yeah, it felt like he was going to be almost like an anti-hero type, but you never really ended up caring about it at all.
It felt like that's what they were pushing, but he just doesn't like fill out that role. Like he's not handsome enough. He's not believable enough. Like he's a slimy criminal. Yeah. But you never like really get to love him like you're supposed. Like I think they want you to
care about him. Yeah.
No, I think like the way I saw his character was that I was almost expecting along the way that I feel like if there, I didn't see the remake, so I don't know if there was a character like him. I'm assuming there was, that I feel like we would see that character be a little bit more prominent. In this guy felt a little bit more one dimensional in this specific role. I mean, granted, it could be just time and place and like. I give a lot of slack to this being like one of John Carpenter's first films and stuff like that. So, I guess I just felt like he was a little bit more one dimensional and I expected him to be more of a forefront. And like you said, anti-hero is a great word for that. But sorry, was that
I think Lawrence Fishburne is in the role, but like it's weird. They name his character Marion Bishop. So he's named after the sergeant who's the lead in this one, but he's a criminal in this one. That seems kind of racist.
Well, it does a little bit. And also like the sergeant was, obviously like the hero, the archetype hero in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's wonder if it was, they thought they were being cute and doing like a role reversal where like now the criminal is the archetype hero instead of the highway patrolman guy. I don't know.
Listen, I didn't see it.
I'm going to see it. I didn't see it either. I'm just speculating. But I do want to say that if you want to check out any, more work by our guy there that, what was his name? Darwin Johnston. I would strongly suggest you to go check out season 1, episode 3, Looking for Lucky from 1986 of Alf. Where he plays his, most celebrated role as, I think, pet shop attendant.
Sure.
So dog pound attendant really nailed that one. Yeah, really got. He
possibly
snubbed.
Captures Alf in this episode.
Yeah, he got snubbed by the Academy for dog pound attendant. All right. Any final thoughts? Like I said, let's not waste too much time on Assault on Precinct 13. Not that it's not an enjoyable film. You should definitely check it out. Get on the Tubies and check it out. But listen, for spooky season, there's better stuff to talk about. There's better stuff to watch.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say as a final thought for me is that I miss squibs.
I know. Squibs are so fun.
I miss squibs.
Yeah.
My only final thoughts were, as I mentioned before we got on this episode, and I have to make sure all of our listeners know, is that following up on our last episode of Butts is that, like, because it was just on my mind, is that one of the 4, which then turned 3, main, like, villains characters had a ridiculous badonkadonk on a guy too. So if you're thinking of the scene where the 3 walk up and they're kind of trying to intimidate everyone inside, and they have that flag type thing that they throw on the ground, that's the scene where I was like, look at that butt.
That's like where they declare war kind of thing. Yeah. You know what? I didn't notice it. But listen, for whatever reason, 70s guys' jeans did a lot more for butts than 70s women's jeans. That's all I'm saying.
10 out of 10, you know. Yeah. We can rate that butt a good I'd give it a good 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd go as high as 8.5.
Voluptuous.
I don't want to. Yeah. It was a bubble butt. That's
it was for sure.
All right. So who's jumping in here? Steve, remind me.
My turn. It's my turn.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Let's talk about a little movie called Halloween from 1978. Also directed by John Carpenter. Music by John Carpenter. Script by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. This movie fucking rules. I don't know how much I really need to talk about this film. But we were talking about how Assault on Precinct 13 is John Carpenter doing a lot with a little.
Yep.
This film is absolutely him doing the most with a little. There is so much he goes into with, again, just movement of camera is pretty impressive. You think about the scenes where early on Michael is following Tommy Doyle from the school to stalk Lori, and you have this it's a long camera take, and the camera gets in the car, and then the camera moves in the car as the car is moving along. There's so much great one shots throughout this film. It even opens with a fantastic one from the POV of young Michael as he's going into his home, picking up the butcher knife, going upstairs, and
throwing on the clown mask, as one does.
Doing the clown mask,
stabbing your sister's tits, as one does.
Doing the cat and mouse with the boyfriend, so he don't see you, because he's gonna ask questions. Why you gonna try to stab your sister's tits in that?
Also, I mean, that guy, he was just trying to get the fuck out of there, because he literally came in like 14 seconds.
Oh yeah, he burst nerds and bust out.
He was like, all right, we ready to get intimate? Here we go. Bye. And he just launched himself out the window.
There's a lot of, I think that's how John Carpenter really excels. He portrays high school sex as best anybody does, in that it takes literally less than 90 seconds.
It is great too. It's that one scene where, slightly further into it, and then the chick is just like so satisfied, and you're like, I know
she's playing.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Yeah, Bob also is, 4 strokes, and then he's got to get.
That's what I call him, old four-stroke Bob.
Yeah, four-stroke Bob.
He has those glasses that he has. My dad had those exact glasses.
Sick.
Exact glasses. Good old Bob. He got it. And of course, the great PJ Souls in that film, in that scene as well. Yeah. PJ Souls in that, and again, just like the cast is pretty top tier, at least within the 3 girls who get stalked through it, because obviously you have Jamie Lee Curtis, and we talked about Nancy Loomis, now Keys, and PJ Souls. They're all the eventual victims. Right.
Jamie Lee Curtis is grandma to me.
She grandma?
Forever in my life. Yeah, no, she's like grandma horror.
she was relatively unknown at this point. Unknown in the sense that, of course, her parents were famous actors, but like this was her first big role. Mm-hmm. Like really where she was showcased. She was the heroine, the main protagonist. This was really her first big one. Now, this was not meant to be a big movie, but ultimately became a big movie. Mm-hmm. But it kind of side channeled Hollywood a little bit in that way. And for that reason, I think for like until the Blair Witch Project came out, which was what, like 94?
99, yeah.
99, yeah, I was going to say 94 is too early. Yeah, so in 99, so from 1978 to 1999, this was still the highest grossing independent film of all time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, it's just back to John Carpenter doing the most with little. Mm-hmm. So much of the film happens in the daylight.
Yeah.
Like it's not really until the third act that it really becomes nighttime. But like even during that daylight, Carpenter takes advantage of the fact that he doesn't have a whole lot of lights to work with. Mm-hmm. So it makes the day scenes feel more oppressive and dark. Mm-hmm. You know, like when Laurie's in the school, you know, they have her positioned up against the window, but I don't think that's out of just like happenstance. It's because they didn't have the lights.
Sure.
Yeah, probably not. It's like, we want to flick on the old fluorescent lights in here. Probably not.
No.
Yeah, I mean, the movie did kind of have this like muted tone to it during the day, but I feel like what that did was, it definitely gave you the impression of time of year, but also like, that movie was filmed in California, so that takes a lot to like really work up against. So it's gonna be okay. I'm just gonna preface everything that I'm gonna say is that it's hard to like tear apart this movie, but there's things that I can like pick apart. But when it comes to that type of thing, I think it works in its favor is that no matter what, even if majority of it was during the day, you still kind of had this tenseness to it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's still, that time of year, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it also so it was shot in like the spring or summer in Pasadena, but they brought in leaves, like dry leaves, not a ton of them, but a few. And it's so funny because between that and like the breeze and the kind of overcast kind of nature of it, like it does pass for Illinois in October, which is so wild because it was probably 90 freaking degrees, you know what I mean, that day. But
probably,
you can have like I've seen this movie more than any other movie probably. And you do start to know where to look and say like, okay, that's clearly a palm tree back there. You know what I mean? Right. But for the most part, like they really nailed the whole like Midwest autumnal thing on, like I said, just clever shooting, essentially. The other scene I wanted to mention, which is maybe my favorite scene in the movie, is it's early on, and it's one of the few scenes in the dark early on, which is where Loomis and Nurse Marion go to pick up Michael and transport him, but he's broken out. And when they pull up to the asylum and the lightning flashes, and you see all the
all the escape patients,
that are just wandering around in the rain, out in the field, just in the illuminated by the headlights of the car. That I just love that scene.
Yeah, it's such a great simple setup. And like there could have been a whole different movie about that, like recapturing all of the patients of Smith's Grove. Yeah, but it's just such a simple setup of like it's a dark and stormy night, and it's the setup of like that old urban legend of the guy who's clawing at the side of the door,
right?
Because you have like they're not a couple, but Nurse Marion and Dr. Loomis are like in this car. It gets stopped, and like there's somebody clawing at the side of the door, and it's Michael Myers busting into the car.
With his little tiny wrench.
Yeah, with his tiny wrench, and then just slams his big hand into the window.
Yeah,
I feel like if anyone was going to come pumpkin spice, it would be Michael Myers, and it would be in the same scenario.
He might. I just imagine Michael Myers doesn't have genitals. It's just like it's like a Barbie or a Ken doll. Yeah, it's just kind of like
that's why he's so upset about people fucking.
Yeah, he's like, if I can't
I just want
fuck,
to burst
no
nerds.
one
Don't you
can
want my
fuck.
pumpkin spice?
he has like phantom pains in his genital area,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know why.
Yeah.
So he's constantly blue balled. He's just like, I gotta come. I don't know why.
That'd be really funny if that was just like the overarching theme that we just like now get revealed. Hey guys, TM, we just revealed the actual ultimate reason why he will never die is because he's just trying to burst nerds.
I can't. I want to, but instead I'm just gonna eat this dog.
That's Carpenter's deathbed confession. It's like, Michael never had a dick.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much because I feel like so many people have seen this movie. So to go through the plot, it's just kind of insane. But I think some of the things that like I loved about it are things we talked about with, I think one of the huge like overarching, I will give this so much props, is that there's a lot of tensity created just through the actual cinematography. Some of the things where I will start like picking holes is that I feel like the acting almost comes across as like these caricatures of these types of people in like high school, it kind of reminds me of this campy high school type movie, which I mean in all reality at that point it probably can be, but I felt like that was one of the weaker points that got better over time as like these movies matured and so on and so forth. Whereas where I would only like to put the thing is that above that is that I felt like the characters in the thing kind of had this more authenticity to who they were, even though they had some slight caricatures of it and they were still playing these like archetypes throughout it. But that would be,
I mean, I would say one is obviously like a sci-fi monster movie, and the other one is like a proto slasher. And you got to remember, like a lot of these tropes that we think of as being these like teeny bopper slasher tropes, not that Halloween was the first slasher film, but it's the one that put slashers on the map and established so many of those tropes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, it's almost like it has to be exempt from that argument almost, because it's like, teeny bopper slasher tropes, but it's like, this movie kind of like established those.
Right. It started it.
Yeah. That and like Black Christmas and stuff have a little bit of a similar vibe in that here's the cast of character, here's the friends. They're going to, let's get to know them in a way where they like joke around with each other and bust each other's balls and stuff.
Here's the one that likes books. Here's the one that likes to fuck. Here's the one that drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it started that. It was the prototype for everything that followed, especially, Friday the 13th followed it up, and all of those characters are even worse in being locked in their ways. My argument against the thing is that there's so many characters, you actually don't learn that much about them. They only service like their jobs within the research facility, and it's really only McCready and maybe Gary and the doctor that you get like a good sense of who they are.
I can agree with that for sure. Yeah. And I think though, to a certain extent with the thing though, that I don't know if it matters as much as that we have so much character development, because it's less about, besides the few that you mentioned that I will agree with that we get to know and we care about, is that it's more about that like lack of trust. And we're talking about like the boogeyman versus like this weird existential crisis that's going on in another film. And so I think we're all being fair here and understanding these are very clearly two different films. So
yeah, I actually would disagree with Steve a little bit that like, yes, no, I won't disagree. I'll say this. You don't get to know the characters nearly as much as you get to know them with the smaller cast, but with this type of paranoia movie, you kind of it's really a whodunit. You know what I mean? It's like a damn space alien giallo flick or something, right? So for having so many people, having all the clue characters kind of thing, you actually do like, because I'm like looking down the cast here, because I always forget. Like, as many times as I've seen these movies, I always get like Fuchs and Bennings and Gary and who's who kind of thing. Like, I sometimes forget who's who. But like, they have like distinguishing characteristics. Like, if you said every single one of them, it's like, obviously McCready, is Kurt Russell's character. He's the badass, Childs is kind of his other, like the other leader guy, Dr. Blair is this, the scientist doctor who's kind of defeatist and losing his mind. Clark's the guy who likes dogs. You could just kind of go down the road. Like, Gary's the kind of uptight straight man. Fuchs is the smart ass. So you could just kind of like go down the line. You're like, they kind of they kind of do enough to establish who they are,
right?
And what kind of behavior to expect out of them.
Yeah. You get what you're supposed to get out of those characters. I'm just saying, like, it's not worth picking apart the Halloween characters being stereotypical in their roles. Because I mean, you can name them as well, and you know who they are.
Yeah. And
Tommy Doyle's the kid,
I'm coming at it from a place of like, if we're putting these two movies head to head, what do I like about each one and which one do I not like about each of them? And like, for me, I kept coming back to this feeling of like classic versus timeless. And like, I felt like all the elements of Halloween kept hitting this classic film, which are something I would rewatch on an annual basis. Whereas like The Thing hits this place where I can rewatch this movie over and over and over again and never be bored. Like, always find something even more interesting and be excited about certain scenes. Versus like where Halloween, I kept coming like, no, this is an amazing film. This is like something that everyone should watch, and it will always be a staple in the horror universe. But like, if I'm talking favorites and elements that make something better than the other, and we're just putting these two head to head, I don't know, do we want to do this? Like, just like jump into both and just start.
I have some more things I want to talk about as far as Halloween goes.
Yeah, please do that. Then I won't overtake that then. But
well,
I was pretty much going
finish your thought. Yeah, finish your thought.
Yeah. I mean, I was really looking at classic versus timeless, and I felt like The Thing to me has become a thing that's timeless, and I can watch it any time of the year. I can just find something even more interesting every time I watch it, and I still just get really excited over it. But again, that's my personal preference.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well, just because I feel like The Thing stands out on its own as its own thing. But like, because Halloween has been mimicked so many times, and because Halloween has so many fucking sequels, there is a dilution. But man, just going back to this original, it really blew me away just how smart it was with, again, the way the camera moves, the way everything is set up. Like, you have that great shot where Dr. Loomis first meets Sheriff Brackett on the street. And this is right after Annie and Lori have been talking to Sheriff Brackett about, there's been a break-in at a store. And the break-in is about like somebody stole a mask and a bunch of ropes and shit.
And they were smoking it. They were smoking a J, and they're
smoking
all
a J. Yeah, and like, there's no way Sheriff Brackett wouldn't have smelled it because they were hotboxing in the car. But so like, those characters pull away. But like, obviously Sheriff Brackett's talking about Michael Myers, and up shows Dr. Loomis, and Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett are talking, and in the background you see the car with Michael Myers in it, and he's just waiting. To make a turn. Yeah. And like, had Dr. Loomis turned around, he would have seen it. But it's such a great like framing and setup for everything. Yeah. And the way everything pays off. The other thing I want to mention especially is, again, we talked about in Assault of Precinct 13, but the sound design is so important and so strong. Like, again, obviously that music's become iconic, but even just the general sound design and choices, like the way Michael breathes and just has that like you can just tell it's a deranged person under the mask. Yeah. Like, you see his face like twice for small points of time, but you don't need it. You just hear it under his mask, and he's just breathing like a deranged maniac, and that's what it is.
And you're speaking to everything that I love about certain things, where I will have talked about it over and over again, is like what your mind can create based on these elements, I think is so much stronger than a lot of things. Yeah. So it is a plus for me too.
And it's one of those things I feel like this film should be shown a lot more in film school. I don't know how much it is. Yeah. But like, there's so many, when you watch a lot of these cheap independent films that come out, especially like on Tubi and on other places, their sound is so fucking trash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the first things I notice, like when you're on there. It's like, what did this, is this like a rip of a rip of a rip? Like, what the fuck? Why in this age, like where you can have like a good quality recording on your phone, does your sound suck so bad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people have focused so hard on visuals, but this film is like the antithesis to that idea, because again, there's so much natural lighting. Mm-hmm. They're not using big 500K lights to light a set. They don't have a 4K red weapon. They have just 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter cameras filming in the dark, filming shadows, and they're doing the best with it. And then they make up for it on the back end with the way John Carpenter scores everything, and the way you have like those very specific music stings. You have, Brian already mentioned it. Like if you take out the soundtrack, a lot of this could seem really fucking silly.
Right. Totally.
But like you put it in and it jars you and it moves you in a way that's, really important. So yeah. Another note I had, and it's back to like just to this film being a little smarter than its sequels, definitely than its sequels. But it's
except for 6. I mean, I assume you mean except for 6.
Yeah, except for 6. Yeah, when they really get into the cult shit. But no, it's the scene where Laurie's in the classroom and she's sitting there, and the teacher is talking about they're talking about different authors and the way they look at fate. Mm-hmm. And it's just a small little commentary about like why everything is about to happen. Yeah. And it's just talking about how fate just is. You can't stop fate. It was always going to happen. You couldn't have changed it. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. The reason why Laurie is about to be stalked by, or it currently is being stalked by Michael Myers, is she just so happened had to go drop off a key at the Myers house when he was there. Yeah. And he saw
like some butterfly effect for I think the entire like franchise in general too.
I don't think it is.
That's the problem, because they fuck it up
but
later.
I mean like in general, like it sets up something that everyone else can play off, is really what I'm getting at too. It's like where it's this inescapable fate.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree with that. They really fuck it up by trying to explain it. Which the scariest thing about Michael Myers is that it was an accident. That he, it was an accident. Well, the scariest thing about Laurie's situation is that it was an accident. Right. Michael was going to victimize somebody, and it just happened to be her because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then the whole question is, why does Michael do what he does? And it's, because his fucking brain's broke. You know what I mean? So, but the problem with the sequels is when they start to do, their brother and sister, and then it
was a preordained cult, and the cult of Thorn always needs the vessel, and the
yeah, and then it's just, not to say I don't like those movies, but they're such a dramatic downgrade.
They're not smart.
Because they're trying to just it's like you're getting the icing tube just squirted into your mouth instead of having any Danish associated with it or any cake. You know what I mean?
That just sounded insanely sexual. Sorry, like all those words just came out of your mouth.
Squirting. The creamy icing.
And the Danish, like, I'm just instantly like, it's
why
now
is phallic
symbol.
Sexy?
Because they like can be like long and thin, you know what I mean? Like, sorry, I had like my brain's in the gutter at the moment, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I'll continue on with in the gutter, because I wanted to bring something up. I realized on the rewatch that Halloween is the origination of stuck porn.
What's stuck porn?
Wait, what's
stuck porn is when the girls are stuck in a dryer or a window.
Yeah, like I got my head stuck in the dryer.
Was a subgenre.
Yeah, that's a new genre.
Find a video now.
Just look up stuck porn.
Oh, I'm stuck stuck here. Oh shit,
Help me out.
I'm getting banged.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
you don't help, you just get banged. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Heard.
but this is the origination of it because there's the scene where Annie is doing her clothes in the laundry,
We know this.
and she goes out and she gets stuck in the window. But then she comes back and she's talking to Paul, and Paul's like, "Oh, you got stuck? Yeah, that's hot.
You fucking did.
Yeah. Guess what would happen if I was there? I would bang you."
Oh, dude, I totally like lick all that butter that you spilled on your shirt.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
But yeah, Halloween invented stuck porn.
Yeah, I guess it
or at
did.
least inspired
John
it.
Carpenter, what an influencer he is.
Yeah, genre bender.
Yeah.
I had a couple quick things that I wanted to, kind of bring up, which was, again, one of the more iconic scenes I was obsessed with as a kid, and I still love it. And I've come to appreciate, I think, like the sanitarium nighttime rain scene, and even the one out, looking out the window. When Laurie's in the classroom. But the other one I would be remiss if I didn't mention is the clothesline scene, when Laurie gets home and you get that quick snapshot of him with the blowing. I mean, that's an iconic image. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with that scene. I think a lot of people who really love this movie and watched it on VHS 1,000 times over, which I got my first VHS copy of this from my Aunt Jill, but she did buy it at Big Lots. So full circle to our Big Lots story. What's Steve's drink? She bought everything at Big Lots. But I remember being obsessed with the scene, and now being involved in going to horror conventions and just horror community in general. A lot of people who are diehard fans of this movie have such a connection with that scene too, because it's almost a jump scare, but it's not the music associated with the scene specifically, they could have did a big sting. But instead, they just do that. They just twinkle the keys a little bit when he's out there, and it's that eerie,
this
intro
movie just has
twinkle.
this slow burn feel to it too. I think that's what makes because at times, if I'm taking a step back and I'm sometimes it feels slow, but that's the point, and it's nothing needs to move fast in it at all, because and it feeds into Michael is never gonna fucking go away. He is going to be, if it makes you think in your brain, this is relentless. And this is something I don't know how else to say it besides what I said. Hopefully that makes sense to people.
But it makes sense. And it's in that way, it's actually kind of structurally similar to The Thing, because in The Thing, you get the monster very early on, but then you have kind of the lingering paranoia, and you get the same thing in Halloween. You get the threat and physicality of Michael early on, because he breaks the window, steals the car. You see that he's willing to kill a tow truck driver and steal all his clothes. So you get, you understand how dangerous he is to begin with, but then it's just that relentlessness, because you're always seeing him in the background. His car is always following Laurie and everybody, so it's there. Nobody's stopping him. And you, as the viewer, are the only one who knows that he's there and dangerous.
Right.
So, yeah.
You almost feel part of it in a way, because you feel like you're a little bit of a step ahead of the characters in a way. So,
right.
Yeah.
No, I think it is definitely effective in a lot of ways. But I think the differentiation based on the comparison is that we get that threat up front, and then we get just this constant sense of unknowing throughout the thing. And I appreciate that so much, because we as the viewer don't actually know what's going on. I think in a lot of ways we get red herrings a lot throughout it, where we're oh, maybe that person. And I think that's what always made me even more excited about that. So to make comparisons. And
also just to go along with the point of Michael Myers being omnipresent in this film is what it sets it apart from so many other slashers that came afterwards, because so many other slashers are dependent on the jump scare. You'll never see Pamela Voorhees really in Friday the 13th. You see Jason pop up in places, and then he'll teleport ahead and then pop up again. So it's rarely the same kind of stalking that you get in this film. This is much more like grounded.
Yeah, sorry to like interrupt on this, like, but this is like, and this is one of my sticking points where we see the differentiation is like when you go into like Friday the 13th, you know Jason is dead. You know throughout the whole thing, and we talked about this when we were covering all the Friday the 13th stuff. Whereas I think it became a frustration with Halloween 2, where Jason has this mysticism around him that like you can give exception to all the randomness that comes along with it. Whereas Michael Myers became frustrating, more so even recently, where I'm just like, what the fuck? Is this guy actually superhuman, or is he dead? Is he alive? Is he a ghost and he's just never going to go away? And that unknowing whether or not it benefits has become a frustration for me. This movie, if I'm looking at it solely, I'm not going to say it's a frustration because we don't fucking know that. At this point, we know he's just this like a beastly fucking man of a dude, and he's just going to fuck shit up.
But also he just is omnipresent in this film again because he's on screen all the time.
But
so
we're not given that idea that he is this somehow, whether using omnipresent because he's like this like I don't know.
No, I mean he's omnipresent as in he's omnipresent as you physically see him. You see him in the car.
Sure. Yes. Okay, got it.
Whereas Jason is on screen, off screen. Because he's like teleporting around the world itself.
Yeah, he's popping up. He's popping up, and it's like almost like a haunted house type of situation with Jason. Where like I think the thing that I always liked about Michael too is like it was essentially, Jason is, supernatural, obviously, because he comes back from the dead in the very first movie at the very end. And then for all the subsequent sequels after that, he is essentially, you are meant to believe that he had come back from the dead. I mean, he was dead. He done drowned it a minute ago.
He drowned it as a baby and then come back as a baby and then somehow also a goof man.
And also a big grown goof man. But the idea is like, they explain it away with, it's supernatural. You know what I mean? It's some sort of supernatural stuff. But I think the thing I like about Halloween is, especially the first one. I mean, Nick Castle, who plays Michael in the first movie, for most of the scenes. Tony Moran is actually him when he gets his mask pulled off, like in the kind of climactic scene. But Nick Castle, he's not a big guy.
No,
he's tall, but he's lanky.
Yeah,
like he is like I imagine like he looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo under there. You know what I mean?
Man suit.
Well, he's not even doing that. If you watch the first Halloween, like
that suit's too big for him.
It's too big for him. He's kind of a scrawny looking dude, which always made him more scary to me because his the supernatural element of it it's not supernatural. It's basically that the human brain is supernatural. Like anything we think might be supernatural on this earth is the only way we can describe it is it's our brain perceiving the world in a different way. So his brain is abnormal in that way. And that gives him this enormous detriment, which is to say he's a one-minded killing machine that eats people's dogs. But he's also like impervious to pain, basically, for the most part. So, that's why I always thought it was a smarter approach than like Jason was the. I love a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, but I just think that they're just a dumbed down version. I guess.
Yeah. It's always been dumber. Yeah. Just a couple other notes I had. It was the nerddom of I think John Carpenter coming through, but obviously one of the things that it's very funny that is Tommy Doyle and Lindsay, the kids that are being babysat through the film. They're watching scary old horror movies. Yep. One of them is obviously The Thing. You see the title sequence come up, which it's just very funny that's in Halloween. Carpenter is obviously calling a shot somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
The other one, though, that is interesting is Forbidden Planet. And he even purposes the score to work within Halloween. It's after Annie's been killed. and Tommy Doyle's looking out the window. Like he had this idea he's going to scare Lindsay, but then he hides behind a curtain and he looks out the window, and the Forbidden Planet score is playing while he looks, and he sees Michael Myers taking Annie's body.
Yeah.
And
carrying her like, almost like the, bride and groom traditional kind of like carrying her like that across the front line.
Or like the Forbidden Planet poster in which Robbie the Robot is carrying Anne Francis.
Yeah, I never think about that. That's great. Clever. I never thought about that. Yeah. I forgot that Forbidden Planet was in there. I remember obviously they're watching Thing from Another World, but I completely forgot that Forbidden Planet was on in the back at this point. I like I said, I've seen this movie 100 times, but it feels like every time both of these movies, frankly, I feel like I notice things again. It's one of those movies where I used to watch it so frequently that it would be like 90% of the time you're like half paying attention just because it's always on. Like I can recite every word probably along with the actors to the movie, but then if you point something out in the background or something, I'll be like, oh, I never noticed that before. maybe I'm just not observant, but
no, I find it so funny. I did a Google, so I had it up on my screen, and I was like, the first thing is when Halloween is going to be on TV, and it's like every day.
Oh yeah.
Every forever. Yeah, for the next 31 days, y'all.
Yeah, there was one I saw recently. It was on Red Letter Media. You'll probably enjoy, Brian, but it was there. There's a scene in the film where like I think it's when Laurie's hiding in the closet, but like she has like some stippling on her forehead because she had been sleeping on a velour couch.
Yeah.
And they got her for the scene.
And she just came up there.
Yeah, she just came up and like she has the indents from the couch on her head.
Funny.
I remember watching this on like, I don't remember what it is. I don't know if it was AMC or something like this, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And they used to have basically the movie equivalent of like pop-up video. Do you remember when they used to do that? And you would watch the movie and then they would have the little blurbs pop up with like little bits of facts and trivia.
I like that idea.
I think because they did a lot of older movies, didn't they?
Yeah, it was. I want to say it was IFC or AMC. It might have been IFC. But I remember watching that in college and that one popping up. But then they also had a bunch of like just not correct stuff pop up like since then. Like I remember learning stuff and then like going back and watching that and being like, that's not true. That's completely fabricated. Like, because they said like John Carpenter made the whole movie for like $30,000.
Yeah,
it's like, no, it's not. It was like $300,000, but still, it's super low budget. But you think they got Donald Pleasance and everything else for $30,000? Like, I don't think. But
a fun fact. They're not in the same episode, but Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance, both in episodes of Columbo.
No shit.
Yeah.
What's Columbo?
Have you never saw Columbo?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Columbo is like it was in the 70s, I guess. It was like you would know if you saw Columbo. Like if you saw the main character, who's like a police detective that like he acts like he's dumb, but he's really smart. Like you would know him if you saw him.
It's a great show. It actually went from the 70s into the 2000s.
I'm not really not
2000s.
Oh my god! Did you guys ever watch Shameless?
I've seen previews and stuff,
Sorry,
I've saw like promos.
I just googled the Get Lead the character, like the Columbo, and
Peter
he
Falk.
kind of looks like the one teacher that helps Lip later on in the series. Looks like he might be a little bit like just fucked up all the time, a little bit deranged, but super smart. You know, he kind of
had this like squinty thing, and he would act like he was kind of this dumb, kind of dense guy, but then he would eventually, reverse psychology the guilty party into, outing themselves, basically.
Yeah. The Donald Pleasance episode, he's guilty, and the Jamie Lee Curtis episode, she plays a waitress, and she's just like really short and has like a shitty attitude. It's pretty great. Yeah, it's actually worth watching. Yeah.
Shit.
Also, Columbo's on Tubi. Check it out.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything more about Halloween. It's just one of the best movies. Don't let watch it with the intention of remembering that this is the first. You know, this came before everything else that followed it, including the sequels, including, you know, all the other pretenders. So, you know, be aware of that. I mean, The Thing doesn't have that, you know, except for the 2011. That's the only thing that kind of sullies its name. Is the 2000.
But hey, you gotta be. Well, let's fucking talk about it, bro.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about The Thing.
Is it my turn now?
Let's fucking do it. You fucking do it.
Go.
Yeah,
you
all right.
fucking
Yep.
go. So jumping into 1982, The Thing by our Lord and Savior, John Carpenter. So we have this very, what I'll say again, timeless film by John Carpenter, featuring the likes of one Kurt Russell, which, you know, heart emoji, I heart emoji, you know what I mean? Like all the emojis as McCready. We have this cast, though, is really interesting because I just feel like there's a lot of really familiar faces that you have recognized and maybe you don't exactly know where to pinpoint. Like we have Keith David as Childs. He was in They Live, which I found more recent. He's like even did stuff with Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman, but he also did other stuff.
Oh yeah, he does voices for a ton of shit. Yeah, his career is wild.
TMNT,
he was Spawn.
Oh yeah, he was Spawn. Fuck, I forgot about that.
Cool. Yeah, that's fucking sick. But like the moment you see him, like he's just super familiar. We have Wilford Brimley, which we already talked about as Dr. Blair, Sir Diabetes. Which sucks that that's
Dr. Diabetes.
Dr. Diabetes.
I would like to come out of the shed now. I don't have diabetes anymore.
It's so funny that like he's such a wonderful actor, and all everybody remembers him for is diabetes. It's the way he said it. So one little decision. Probably he thought it was some throwaway bullshit commercial he was going to do.
We will never forget him. We will never forget him.
And everyone remembers him for that, but he's fantastic.
Legends never die.
He probably wants to be remembered for that more than he does Uncle Duvet in Hard Target with Van Damme, where he's doing a fucking crazy Cajun accent.
Hard Target rules, dude. Me and my brother used to watch Hard Target on fucking repeat.
I'm not saying the movie's bad, but I think in his mind he doesn't want to be remembered for it.
No, I don't remember that. I do remember him with like the little hat. You know, didn't he have like a little fucking like a fedora?
He's doing like Cajun Grandpa, and Van Damme's doing different Cajun Louisiana terrible accent Belgian.
Yeah, he was basically being that character that was like on that episode of The Simpsons, like Big Daddy kind of guy.
Yep.
Guarantee.
Crawfisher.
Yeah.
Moving on, sirs. We have TK Carter as Knowles, who you see him in a lot of 80s shows, but also he touched on like Family Matters, Punky Brewster, and I noted he played on like The Nanny for a period of time. David Clennon as Palmer. A lot of his stuff definitely turned to like TV shows, like he was on Grey's Anatomy, West Wing, and Weeds, and did have a role in Gone Girl, but my main sticking point for him in this movie is that I actually took a picture of it, was when he's like smoking that fat ass joint like early on in the film, guys. He's always going to be remembered to me as the guy who smoked a fat ass joint on fucking a movie. Richard Mazer, is that how you say his name? As Clark, aka Seth Rogen's long lost uncle, obviously husband. Jesus Christ.
He does kind of look like him. You're right.
But he also does
now you're getting into fanfic territory.
No, I'm definitely doing fan fiction on this because like he has this like very soft look where also with the characters he plays, like he always kind of had this like
he's a soft boy.
Husband.
He likes dogs. You know,
he's the divorcee or like the single dad. He just kind of always has a sad face. So you're just
what
like,
do you call that?
Buddy.
What do you call that when he's like the dad? With the horny for dads thing. What is it again? Zaddy.
Oh, Zaddy. No, I don't. He's not
he doesn't
Zaddy.
Have those vibes?
No. He's not Zaddy. Like Zaddy needs to be a little bit more sexy.
Gotcha.
He just has like the I need to take. He's looking for that woman to like take care of him a little bit.
Him.
You know, like
I need you to put my pieces back together.
Yes, exactly. He has that vibe.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me otherwise that he does not have that vibe.
I like it. Good looking
He
man.
also
I'm not
loves
gonna lie.
dogs, though. So, I mean,
Non-threatening
give me a
broken
call,
vase.
Richard Miser. You're
Not
still alive.
non-threatening, broken beta cuck soy boy. Wasn't that episode where you were calling everyone betas?
Dude,
Wasn't that?
we already went over this. I just fucking drunk.
I know. I just love that. That cracked me up.
I'm not gonna live this down. You know, whatever. I'm just gonna start calling you a beta.
OG beta cuck.
But like it bring back like I can go through. I also put Donald Moffat as Gary on this list because I feel like Steve, you already called it out. Like these are the main characters that you really start like getting to know a little bit deeper and understanding them. But the thing is based on a 1938 John W. Campbell Jr. novella, Who Goes There? And it tells a story, which is what we understand for this film, of a group of American researchers in Antarctica who encounter this like creature of the thing, which in theory is like this parasitic extraterrestrial life form that assimilates and imitates. And it's just like, I don't know, it's such a unique take on it. I have a lot of fun with it. To start off with this film, again, I'm not going to go through all the plot points, but I'm going to point out a lot of things I thought were really interesting about it. Someone messaged me after I posted from watching the thing the other day. They were like, did you hear about the opening title sequence and like how that was? And it was kind of a shit show. And I did a little research and it didn't seem as much like a shit show as I thought, but it was something that had been used at that time to create these different unique things, as far as like when we see the thing. So they call it like this fit. What do they call it? I have a note of it. I feel like there's a cloud tank is like really the word. So they basically have a tank of water and they used a trash bag where they cut out the logo of the thing and then lit a match and they basically created the smoke in the water and it all like also burned the trash bag, which was basically the title sequence. And it just like blew my mind. But the more I looked into it a little bit, it was also used in Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Cocoon and stuff like that. So it's an interesting, I think, special effect that I don't know. I didn't get a chance to look to see if there was actually a video to see if there was any other drama around it. But I found it to be very interesting that they did that because I feel like there's a lot of like you'd say trial and error, but you probably have to kind of get it right on like the first or second try to make this work.
Yeah, it sounds like something that's really annoying and left up to, you know, just chance, because if you're burning something,
totally,
it's yeah. I did have
a quote.
Looking at I'm looking at some videos for not specifically the thing, but yeah, there's videos for cloud tank effects.
Yeah,
online.
I took a quote that'll read real fast about that, and it says, "When I photographed it, I hit the garbage bag plastic with a little flame, you know, like a match. I would just light it around the garbage bag plastic, and then the garbage bag plastic would open up and let the light come through the letters, and that's how the letters look like they form a, you know, and burn on with the rays and everything." So they also read that they had like a light behind it, which also created that crazy light effect that we got.
Right.
We've already talked about how music's super important. The only thing I want to note, we already talked about who it was that I feel like that like I noted that when John Carpenter was working with Ennio Morricone, that he requested that he use less notes. And what I think was like perfect about all of this was that thump thump almost also gave you this impression that it was happening underground. And maybe I'm thinking back to like Dune or something like that it reminded me of like that, you know, underground sound. But I think it gave you the mental impression of something that's like lingering underneath the surface. Like the more I thought about it, I was like, you know, I felt that way the whole time. And then with the whole sequence when they're in Antarctica, where they're like the main rooms that they're in feel so small, but there's like all these like underground layers and stuff like that, which is basically where the alien ended up kind of hanging out anyway. I also noted with this that Quentin Tarantino kind of ripped off a little bit of that, like the music for this.
Of course he did.
Of course he did, but also he had Kurt Russell in it. So, but yeah, I just found it interesting that it was influential in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. For the Hateful Eight, Tarantino got Ennio Morricone to do the soundtrack for that as well. And a lot of that is like, that isolated winter shit. So totally. That's why it's stripped down. But yeah, I don't know. I think, not that the music's bad, but I just don't think it's as good as the other two films that we talked about today, because it feels like it's Carpenter trying to make Morricone emulate him, because Morricone's more known for his spaghetti westerns, which are like big string orchestra stuff. And like you're saying, Meg, he's asking him to strip it down, and he has him strip it down and it's synth music. So like he's trying to make Morricone be Carpenter. I'm just wondering why Carpenter just didn't do the music himself.
So this was like his big budget. Like this was his big budget debut in a lot of ways. Like this movie cost exponentially more money than like every other movie he directed prior to this combined, probably, right? So there was a lot more on the line. And I feel like he thought that it needed to be more like grandiose in nature.
Okay.
But I've already forgot his name. The other composer, his sensibilities, I feel like, caused him to steer more towards his own sensibilities rather than letting it be big and grand like he wanted it to be, which ultimately, I think, created more the mystique of the film, because you got to remember, this is only 4 years after Halloween, and Halloween is certainly a phenomenon at this point. This is why he's getting, basically a blank check for this movie, but he's not known as an iconic horror score composer yet. He just has Halloween under his belt and Assault on Precinct 13. Like he's not John Carpenter yet. He's not that we know.
Yeah, he's not John Carpenter, the music guy.
Voice in a way, but I also want to note that, like, I find it interesting. You think about that, but because I think that's a good perspective on like him having the budget to possibly do something different, and how would he direct someone to do that. I still felt like the music had its own identity and then also aided in this film in a lot of ways because of how stripped down it was, but also felt synthetic, that it works for this like sci-fi element. It also, I feel like, because of how stripped down it was, made you have this sense of loneliness that I think was only more enhanced by the cinematography that we got exposed to. So I'll throw that out there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just, it doesn't feel, it's not as good as if just Carpenter did it himself, I feel like.
Sure.
And also it just feels weird taking this name composer who's known for doing a lot bigger, and almost like restraining him. So
yeah, no,
you wonder if the studio had anything to do with bringing in the other composer.
Yeah,
maybe. For sure.
We're like, we're putting a lot of money on this thing, so no more of you slapping your dick on your keyboard. You know what I mean? We got to bring in a real guy that does all the stuff.
Hey, you stop fingering that moog and fucking let this Italian feller do it for you.
Hey, yeah, quit fingering your moog. That's a great thing to say to John Carpenter. But yeah, I almost feel like there was a little bit more meddling in it than there, and then John Carpenter being the like perfectionist control freak that like most really great directors are, he was like, okay, if they're gonna make me get over here and do this shit with this goddamn meatball, I'm gonna make him do what I want to do. I don't know why.
I'm just gonna start calling all Italian people meatballs and see where that gets me.
Big meatball.
Big old meatball.
It's fucking
meatball
spicy
over here.
Meatball.
But keep moving forward with this. So obviously, like, the Thing wasn't the first like sci-fi horror for this genre. You know, Alien came before it. But what I think it does a great job at is it takes elements from what happened and then like built off of them. We talk about like having this like very intelligent alien entity. You know, we find out that there's a giant spaceship by some of the videos that we see from the Norwegians, not Swedish. You sons of bitches. It wasn't the Swedes that let this thing go. It was the Norwegians.
That's true. But McCready made that same mistake, so I can't be blamed.
I'm gonna start a war with this one.
Yeah.
He can't tell the difference, but neither can you guys probably. You know,
yeah, that's true.
All Scandos look the same.
Scandos. Oh
I do
man,
have some Corv like defrosting in my fridge. So
ooh, you should open a Corv restaurant and call it Scandos Sandos.
Hell yeah.
Sounds scandalous. That was stupid.
Scandalous.
Scandalous.
That's the Scandinavian strip club.
Oh my god. Yes.
And it takes like each dancer is on stage for like 45 minutes because they have so many fucking layers to take off. It's like, all right, I'm taking off my mittens and my gloves under my mittens. I'm only wearing 4 pairs of socks. Does that get you horny?
What's that do for you?
Yes. Actually, the answer is yes.
What's that do for you?
Fellow Scandinavian, yeah. You know, I think like building off of that is, I love this idea of the assimilation that Blair clearly reveals to us, and you know, that mimicking of the human cell. And I mean, not to mention, we see this like pulled out tenfold, and I can bring out the whole idea of the practical effects for this movie are just so insanely fun. Like, I don't think you can. I was even thinking on this rewatch in the beginning when the dog gets starts attacking the other dogs, and then basically that first flip out of its face reminded me of Stranger Things, like the Demogorgon. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. It kind of does look like that.
I guess I didn't think about that. I guarantee it was influenced in a lot of ways from that, because it does look a lot like it now that I think about that.
But yeah, so I had fun over and over and over again, like just watching all of that.
It's so much confusion. Like when shit starts popping off early on, from the first time the chopper, you know, the Norwegian chopper comes in and they're shooting at the dog and they're, you know, the throwing grenades, and then when the dog starts like mutating and everything, it's just like so much confusion. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's the other a lot of people talk about the themes of like, you know, paranoia, obviously, but also like isolation, but just the like unknown element of like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you know, when he puts the what's the character's name when it's not Copper, it's
Windows.
No, it's Norris. When Norris gets his hands chomped off.
Oh yeah.
Or no.
Norris is on the table. It is the doctor
Copper.
Table.
Yeah, it's Copper, and Norris's body is the one that's got taken over.
Yeah.
And he chops, and everyone is just like, what the fuck, you know, kind of thing. Or even
like, oh, it's just such an epic scene too, because that's when like his body basically just like expands, his head starts coming off, and then we get the other, when its head pops up, it becomes another creature on itself.
And then it crawls away, and that's my favorite line in the whole thing. And maybe my favorite character outside of McCready is Palmer. I love Palmer. He's so fucking funny. He's such a perfect like 1982 character. You know, he's kind of that weird like lifer kind of scientist guy who's like paranoid and weird and socially awkward. But
is
he's Palmer
trying to be
a
scientist? I thought he was like another pilot.
Or is he a pilot? Or he's
maybe a pilot. He definitely. I mean, he's like wearing like the motorcycle vest type thing.
He's
like,
definitely
not a scientist.
trying to be the bad guy or the badass.
Saying that
but
bikers can't be scientists, but
he looks like a Vietnam burnout. Is what he
does.
Is what I thought he was.
Yeah. You're right.
Is like he was probably a Vietnam pilot and just like burned out, and then like he's not as good a pilot as McCready, which is why earlier in the film he's told he's not going up, but they'll let McCready fly out to the other bases, and other sites because they're like, Palmer, you're fine when the weather's good. Otherwise, you're gonna stay inside, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot but he has the best line, which is, when they look over and you're seeing Norris's head crawling away, on its new crab legs, and he's like, you gotta be fucking kidding. Like, I just love that line.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
I always wanted him to go like after, and then McCready torches it, and I always wanted people to be like, or I would love to see like a cut of them improvising, and he's like, "Oh, you can eat crab legs," or something about the crab legs. But also, obviously, the "Are you fucking kidding me?" is a great line.
Yeah, it's so perfect. And I think what this movie does great throughout it is, like, we talk about that idea of like, we can have this like murderous like boogeyman character, which that's obviously the words that are used oftentimes with Halloween. But in this movie is like, we have this boogeyman of an alien character, but we also have the layer that all of a sudden now everyone is enemies because they don't know where the thing is. Mm-hmm. And I think that like, oh my God, it kind of gets exciting throughout it. But I have a note of what I feel like this movie does really well, like just as a film, is that like even there is a lot of it that is done at night, but there's just like a lot of low lighting shots. The nighttime settings that they use, I think, are really impactful. We do get some jump scares, the music, eerie music, and then obviously the special effects are like really the things that I think help build off the chaos and disruption of this entire movie that I think keeps your attention. And again, we're comparing two very, very amazing films, so I can't really be like super harsh on Halloween, and I won't do that. But I always, if I'm comparing the two, I feel like The Thing has this excitement to it that allows you to get really, really invested throughout the whole thing. And I'm gonna just keep going there. Do you guys have any notes, or we're gonna keep fucking moving on this one?
My only thing is like rewatching it is like, the special effects are great, and it's probably one of this idea of like the monster hiding among us it's been repeated in other films, but usually it's like really fucking lazily done. Like with this film, the monster is hiding among us, but then when it reveals itself, it's so fucking crazy and over the top. Like it becomes this disgusting. My problem is though, as the film goes on, some of the effects get kind of worse. Like it's almost like it flies too close to the sun. And like my big point out would be when Palmer tries to absorb windows, and it's just like it's that shitty dummy
that one might
on
be
top
the worst one, but I feel like that's the only call that because it goes from that scene where he's like shaking and then all of a sudden his face is like exploding. There's still a lot of great things in that with like his skull pushing through his fucking head and then it splits open. It's just that shaking the dummy looks terrible. Yeah, it looks terrible. And then he spits out the worst part. He spits out a full Windows. Like he's still intact. He didn't like he
really.
He also did Kool-Aid Man through the wall, and I kind of
that.
But also made me
for
question
a full burn.
How warm this building is if he can just Kool-Aid Man through this burn. Like even just the windows breaking. Anywho, those are a couple of my funny points to that one.
The other standout though to me is the very end, like the last monster. It like we saw so many crazy fucking things up to this point that to end with just like kind of a large tentacle that is more or less stationary and then a dog comes out of it. It felt like I don't know.
It felt like to me it felt like an amalgamation of like everything that it already had been absorbing up to that point.
I didn't feel that though. I felt like if we would have seen the faces of Knowles and Wilford Brimley and Moffat, I forget their character names.
And
like
Gary.
because those were the last two absorbed by Dr. Blair.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
if you would have seen their faces in the tower of flesh, and like
Sure.
I just felt like it could have done more, and it was so stationary and didn't move, and it's just like, it's not the greatest payoff.
See, I
Yeah.
took it as like it was hobbled by that point, and that's why it was down in the cellar. So it's a lot
Right.
colder down there. It becomes less active. Whereas when it's up there, when it first like kind of was brought in and warm, and it was in with the dogs, it was just going fucking spastic. It's going wild. Where at this point it's like a little bit hobbled, and you've kind of backed it into a corner a little bit, and it's just like throwing everything at the wall that it can muster in that last
Right.
moment. So it's kind of
It's
like
a hive mind type vibe where it's
Yeah.
just like it's a collective.
so like the hive is under attack, so it's just like throwing the kitchen sink at you kind of. But I get what you say. Like it's just when you have any one of these scenes, even this, frankly, the scene with windows, which is definitely the weakest one, if that was in a different movie, we'd be like, oh, that was kind of cool.
Right.
But
Oh, yeah.
it's just going up against some of the greatest and most iconic, practical effects sequences of all time.
Yeah.
Just happen to all be in the same movie.
Yeah. Within this film, like that, the scene with windows in the end, it's going from like a 10 to a 9.5. Whereas, like you're saying, if those were just in any other films, like that, those would be the big set pieces, and you'd be like, oh, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's so ambitious. Like this movie's just so fucking ambitious with the sets,
Which is
set pieces.
Yeah, which is why I said I feel like it flies a little too close to the sun, because it's up there. But then it just like you drop the ball on that.
Well, you know what? Probably my favorite scene in the movie, the one that is definitely the most effective from like a scare factor for me.
The blood test.
Well, no, that's fantastic. I love the blood test, but no, the one that I think of as being the one that was the most scary to me is when they chase is the lowest effects, really, which is when they chase Fuchs outside and he's like on his knees in the snow.
Oh yeah,
Bennings.
and he's like,
he does the roar, and you don't know if it's just him, what's happening. Then you see his weird claw hand, and then the very natural roar thing, like that stuck out to me.
So good.
The look on his face, the scream, the wide open mouth. It's it's almost like Donald Sutherland at the end of Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something. You know what I mean? He's got that like crazy look on his face. But.
Yeah, a few more things I want to note. My favorite line of this movie is a Kurt Russell line where he's just like recording himself and like actually recounting like what's going on and just keeping a record of it. And when he's like, "Nobody trusts anyone now, and we're all very tired," I feel like is hands down one of the most iconic lines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I also made a note that I didn't think about this until I was reading about it. With the scene where they find all the blood destroyed because they wanted to do the comparison between the two, was that it could have potentially been the thing with one of its tentacles to have destroyed it, crawling underneath it, and that the hatch may have never actually been destroyed.
Right.
Yeah, this
And I
movie
was
has
just like,
so many theories, and I love the ambiguity of it, and especially that scene, the ending. That's why it's like it's like this
The
whoddunit
last one
type
I want
of
to talk
thing.
about was the ending, though, is that like in the beginning of the film, McCready is like seen playing chess on the computer, but when it appears, he like loses the game. He obviously short circuits the whole computer with his
He dumps
drink.
his scotch in it. Yeah,
But
I love a guy who's down to call a machine a bitch.
Yeah, pretty much. It's us against the machines. But what I don't think was like very clear, but could be a foreshadowing, is like commitment to like destroying like the entire outpost of the thing appears to be winning. So if something else is like better than him, he's going to destroy it. But then John Carpenter stated in like the DVD commentary about the thing is that when McCready offered Childs the drink at the end, it could be interpreted as he doesn't believe for him to be human and he's giving him a drink before he kills him, or that he's giving it to him as a sign of good faith. And it's clearly like left open to interpretation on that one and whatnot. So
my favorite, I wouldn't even say it's a fan theory. I think it's like fairly well established theory at this point, is actually two that are my favorite. One is when McCready hands him the Scotch bottle. They're very careful to show you that it's the same Scotch bottle, which he had cases of, which you saw him earlier turning into Molotov cocktails. So he was putting like what, kerosene or something in them as Molotov cocktails. I love this theory that when he hands them for a drink, he's handing them one of the Molotov cocktails to see if he's real, because if he was a human, he would immediately smell the kerosene and not drink it. Whereas in this instance, he doesn't. He just takes a swig of it. And the thing that really enforces this theory for me is the sting. You get a pronounced sting when he takes a drink, and then you look at McCready's face and he does this kind of like, fuck,
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because I think he, in that very moment, recognizes that Childs has been infected.
Yeah.
There's also another one that I've seen where like they say that both of them are infected because you can't see their breath in that scene. I've seen that one, which I don't buy
like,
that as
they're right
much.
near the fire. I don't really buy that one because they're right near the fire.
Right.
But I feel like we'd see more. I don't know. But yeah. Last note I have in general is just to call out how the guy who did the special effects, Rob Bottin, he did work with John Carpenter on The Fog. Other stuff he did was RoboCop, Total Recall.
Oh yeah,
he actually did later work in Seven and Fight Club, Fear and Loathing, but earlier work he did work on King Kong from 1976 and Humanoids from the Deep.
Oh,
and
love that film. Yeah,
and the
Rob
last
Bottin
one
is an
was
absolute
he did do some work on
legend.
Game of Thrones. So
oh really?
How about that?
2014.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize he was still active. Is he
nothing past that though? I didn't see anything past that.
I mean, he's a legend, and in hearing like stories about the production schedule of like and how long it took him to, because was he not like the protege of another special effects person prior to this that was like pretty celebrated, but then he ended up getting like this, like basically put on his plate, and then somebody either backed out or walked off or quit. So a lot of this stuff, because he was young at the time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he was like 20 years old or some shit when he created all this stuff. I don't quote me on that. I think it's around that.
He's like 23. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And he made so much of this, like him and a small crew. And it's just like such an unbelievable feat of practical effects.
He apprenticed for Rick Baker. That's what it was.
That's right. I knew he worked with,
Who
I didn't
did
know
Rick Baker? Can you guys talk to me about him real fast?
American Werewolf in London, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Rick Baker did.
It?
Yeah.
In it. Yeah.
All right, boys.
Yeah.
That was the wrap for me. I don't know if you guys have any more comments about it, but I wanted to keep it short and tight because I don't know. I am ultimately super stoked. I'm glad that I got the thing. I know, Brian, you probably would have been even more stoked than I have been. But I was really stoked that I got it because I fucking love the thing so much. And I think I fell in love with it a little bit more actually having to dive in and feel like I needed to defend it, you know? But yeah. Both movies were great, honestly. All the movies we watched were good. So
yeah, I felt the same thing about Halloween, and again, just because we've been so inundated with the sequels, especially as of late, it was nice to go back to the original and just like think about it in a frame without everything else around it. Yeah, and it's such a smart and well made film, especially for nothing for nobody.
Yeah, it's hard. I'll be honest with you. I came in not knowing which one I'm going to pick, and I still kind of don't. But like, I was just kind of looking around. Like, I'm such big fans of both these movies. I'm literally looking at a Thing and Halloween posters right side by side here. There's multiple Michael Myerses and Halloween.
Let's go with the voting, and Brian will vote last. But Meg, why don't you vote first?
Yeah.
Are you
obviously
changing your
mine
vote?
is first. I'm not changing my vote. Your movie obviously would be my second, if I'm being clear.
Okay, and you're not being petty.
No, I'm
just
not being
Assault.
petty.
I'm just saying you're not picking Assault 13 just to be petty or anything.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way, though. Obviously, I'm going to stick with Halloween, even though if you ask me off the podcast, I'll probably tell you The Thing is probably better. But
Yeah.
See, you're
I'm very
being petty
torn.
now.
yeah, I'm not being petty. I'm being defensive of and I'm being on brand for my character of never changing my vote. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Thing will be second.
Yeah, I have literally an attributes kind of list here for each one, and I'll just kind of go down through and summarize it for myself to figure out which one I'm going to pick. I think Halloween has more iconic characters. If you go, hey, quick, name something from The Thing, somebody's going to go McCready, and then what else? They're like, Wilford Brimley. Like, they don't necessarily know exactly what it is. Yeah. But they have those scenes and those iconic images of the practical effects, which obviously is a huge benefit for The Thing. Yeah. Whereas with Halloween, you think immediately Laurie, Michael, Dr. Loomis, like immediately those three come to mind.
People will remember dogs before they remember anybody else in The Thing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
me,
they picture
I
faces,
honestly
but
don't agree with them. But whatever. I remembered McCready's hat before I probably remembered
McCready's hat is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good hat, strong hat.
I actually sent it to some of my friends where we have like cowboy jokes going around, and I took a screenshot. And I was like, "Cowboy, take me away."
Snow cowboy.
Snow cowboy, take me away.
Halloween is all about don't show, and The Thing is show everything.
But
you
not
know what
really,
I mean? So
though. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to argue with you on that one.
Well,
you don't see. Right, I love you.
You do, but I mean, as far as like the kills and the violence, like there is very, very little blood in Halloween. There's no gore. Yeah. There's 2 instances of blood, 3 instances of blood.
But they later bring it into the franchise, in ways, I think.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the rest of the franchise.
No,
we're just talking about
I'm
this
talking
movie.
about it. What it could be a weak point is that it didn't, but I think it's more of a time and place why they didn't.
I like that they didn't, and I like that they did in The Thing. It's just two very different kind of approaches.
It's again back to the point of Halloween does the most with the least, whereas The Thing does the most with the most.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so honestly, if I had to say one's just a really big epic movie. Like The Thing is a big, giant, big budget epic movie, and Halloween is a small indie flick. So it's just apples to oranges in so many ways. I think it probably comes down to me what it makes you feel, what it makes you think about, when you think about what is scary about the movie. Ultimately, with a horror film, I go back to, if all things are, equal, let's say Halloween has probably the greatest score in horror history in my mind. The Thing has the greatest, practical effects in horror history, probably. So everything being equal in a trade-off in that capacity makes me go to what is the most effective. And I think for The Thing, the fear is of the unknown. It's paranoia, it's isolation, whereas Halloween, it is basically you're scared of the randomness of the universe, kind of thing, and the human brain and the nature of being. It's a little bit more existential in that way. With The Thing, to escape The Thing, just don't go to Antarctica, but you can't escape Halloween. You can't escape a psychopath that randomly selects you to murder you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think for that reason, Halloween, although The Thing resonates more with horror fans, I feel like Halloween resonates more with everyone. And because you're not scared of a monster, or scared of the unknown, or scared of the dark, or scared of your own, paranoia. It's so a lot of people talk about the randomness and the like nature, you can never overcome nature, and Michael's a force of nature. I think like I try to summarize in my head why I think Michael Myers is the most iconic horror villain of all time. And I think it's because he can't be killed and you don't know why, you don't fully understand why, but he's never ever going to stop until you're dead. Mm-hmm. And it's like a perfect analogy for life is always going to be a struggle, and it's never going to get easy until you're dead. You know what I mean? So like, that's why Michael Myers represents this like existential struggle, and that combination with the faceless, featureless nature of the mask. Like, everyone's scared of a monster, sure, of course. But when you think about even like, why are you scared of a monster?
Because it's a monster with 3 heads.
Yeah. It's freaky looking. You know what I mean? It looks like it's going to hurt you. Whereas like the thing we're all more worried about is just life is hard and then you die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some rando circumstance ruining everything for you.
I feel like, okay, not to like, I'm not trying to convince you because I feel like I know where this is going. But I feel like just to question the whole idea, because you're using existential a lot, is I feel like the thing that you're pointing out that might be one of the best things in your mind about Halloween is like one of, I think, in my mind, as obviously like a newer horror fan and like reflecting on what I have been able to see, is that I don't think that is it at all. Like, I think there's more randomness and inexplicable like inexplicable like idea about like what Michael does that I think to me seems like a plot fault versus like something that makes me excited about it, which again can be seen is when I got so frustrated even with the last Halloween movie, is that I think there is something about it that just doesn't make sense, that feels like we can make something up in our mind as to why he does what he does, versus I don't think it's existential, versus that it's just random chaos, versus with The Thing that I think that movie creates is an actual existential crisis amongst a community of people. And so that's just my reflection on what you've said, but I'm not here to sway you any further.
Well, I mean, I guess
Brian.
what I mean by existential is like, it's the thing we're scared of in Halloween is more related to our nature of existence as humans, is the unknown fear of death, and the fact that I could walk outside and get struck by lightning, or a airplane part could fall down and kill me tomorrow.
But again, that totally speaks to what I just said. It's not existential. It's more just the reality and chaos that life creates.
Well, that's what existential means.
No, it's like more so. Yeah, you're concerned with existence, but like concerned with the idea of like what I think The Thing did that actually has that existential crisis. You start questioning humanity. You start questioning actually what is reality.
Well, I'm not saying it's an existential crisis.
Yeah.
I'm saying the fear is more related to our true nature of existence as humans, whereas
versus the sci-fi idea of like,
a predator. So a predator, for example, another life form that's put on this planet that's trying to, dominate other life forms and take their resources, is essentially what's happening there. And that is but one element of this larger idea that it is entirely random, that you could be walking down the street and just because your dad asks you to stick a key under a door, you die. You know what I mean?
You get stalked and followed.
Yeah, which Lori did nothing to deserve that, or to even incite that in any way. She was like a complete
which I think just adds to the
bystander.
Confusion of it all and like why it doesn't make sense. In ways.
Well, no, it makes the scary thing about it is that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The world doesn't make sense. Our brains are not capable of doing all the math needed to calculate the butterfly effect, cause and effect situation that results in our own deaths. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we're not meant to believe that. Our brains aren't capable of processing that.
But you're,
So
but you're
that-
No, I
forced.
totally agree. I just think that like the thing has that same element and then more.
No.
In a lot of ways.
know, I-
Because
mean-
Halloween, you're forced. Again, it's the way Halloween is structurally, is that you're forced to watch the impending doom follow her the entire time. And she has no idea until basically the end of the film. Whereas the Thing, they know it's there and they take steps to fight it. And like McCready even already has a mindset of what to do. I can't win this game, then everything gets destroyed. So he's far more actualized and has like an idea of what he's going to do. Even when they try to lock him out of the when Knowles cuts rope and leaves him out in the shed. And then he breaks into the storeroom, grabs the dynamite. Like, he already has something in his mind. He's aware and he's ready. So the fear isn't of like the randomness of things. It's the fear of just not being able to overcome it. But by the end of the film, it doesn't matter. By the end of the film, it doesn't matter because McCready's already solid.
And that's the thing is like, us as like viewers for Halloween know all of the things that you're pointing out. Laurie doesn't even know that there's even a threat or a fear until the last 15, 20 minutes of the film.
Right.
So like, it's us creating that fear that there is something following versus it actually being created within it. And she now knows, 15, 20 minutes at the end of the movie that there is now this actual threat.
Right. But the point is
like,
But the point is, we're all being followed by the thing we don't know about, the butterfly effect that's going to get us, whether it's like heart disease or a fucking dog or whatever, or a car crash. There's already that thing out there, and we don't know what it is.
I don't know if I felt that way watching it, but I hear that maybe that's like what you created when you were watching it. But yeah, no, I hear you. But that's not what I felt while watching it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that one of the things I really like about The Thing is that it is an adventure. It's an adventure film, basically, right? So, they are in Antarctica, but they could very easily be on Mars. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's this or in a jungle, right? Or so it almost has an action movie. It's almost like I'm thinking of like an M&M, right? It's like
totally.
the inside, the chocolate. It is an action movie, but it's got a horror shell on it.
Oh,
you know
totally.
what I mean?
And I think that's what aids in the whole idea of that. Like, what makes it more fearful is that no matter how hard they're trying to like defeat this thing that they know exists, they don't know much about it. They're trying to figure it out. No matter what, they know their communication's lost, and they know that there's not a lot of hope, but they're still fighting. So that kind of adds in that.
I guess it's down to personal preference, I think. So I tend to like the man versus. So like in The Thing, it's a fear of nature, basically. Whereas in Halloween, it's a fear of death and the nature of existence, which for me is a little bit more attractive. Like I said, close call. I will not belabor it any further. I am hard pressed to go against Halloween 1978. It's my movie. I tried to keep an open mind, and I absolutely love The Thing. But I think as far as horror films and the what makes them scary, I think Halloween. Like, I've always been in love with that idea of Michael Myers as a harbinger of your ultimate demise, which is inevitable.
Awesome. Two-time champ. Champ.
As much as I don't want to make Steve two-time champ. Even before this, like, Kate was like, "What are you guys doing this week again?" I was like, "Oh, it's the John Carpenter Showdown," and she was like, "Oh, what did everybody get again?" And I was like, Steve got Halloween, Meg got The Thing. She was like, "Oh, well, you're going to pick Halloween, right?" I was like, "I don't know. I might not, but ultimately Halloween got me. It's my favorite movie. The Thing is probably my second favorite movie. So it's a photo finish. It's the creme de la creme. But Steve is back-to-back champ, regrettably.
I'm
Hell
not
yeah,
sitting
double
here
champ.
bitter over here, angry at all.
I'm not angry. I'm not mad. Meg's not got a handful of broken glass because she squeezed her coffee mug.
Yeah, no, I didn't just smash.
All right, you bastard.
Hell yeah.
So do you have a punishment movie in mind?
I do. And this one is, I found this one recently.
Okay.
And it's on the Tubies. So we can all have fun with this.
Fucking is.
And I'm kind of torn about how I want to do this because I think, is it possible if we can talk about 2 movies?
Hey, it's October. Anything's possible.
Because I mean, they're both like an hour each. They're
all
barely.
Right, I'm down. I'm not going anywhere this week. I got movies to watch as long as they're spooky.
Yeah, sure, spooky enough. We will then be, I guess, watching Carousel and Carousel the Second.
I've seen Carousel.
Wait,
I fucking love Carousel.
God. We talked about this. I feel like, is it like spelled like carousel, like as in the fucking?
But with hell, yeah. These are local films too.
Yeah, these are pretty close. They remind me so much of Thanksgiving. They're so fucking.
Carousel is a fucking, honestly, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Isn't Carousel? Wait, is this one from the guys from oh my gosh,
Steve Radzinski?
Yeah, this is oh my god, I'm completely blanking here because I'm so fucking tired. But this
they do a Merry Halloween.
No, these are the guys from Neon Brainiacs, right?
Is it?
Is it?
I think at least one of the guys.
Maybe we should invite them on.
Yeah, one of the guys from Neon Brainiacs, which is another awesome horror podcast I've listened to for a long time, I think is, if I'm not mistaken, is in Carousel. It's been a little while since I saw it, but I remember when I saw it, fucking loving it and posting something about it. And I think like maybe Ben from Neon Brainiacs like commented.
That might make sense if one of them or 2 of them are in it.
Yeah. I think one or both of them are actually actors in it. But
Ben
it's
Deedles?
so fucking. Yeah.
He's Clark in.
That's right. Yes, I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure this is the movie that he's in. It's fucking such a fun, weird movie. I never saw that. I had not seen the sequel, but the one guy who plays, I think, like the lead in it, they're friends with. And when I posted about it, he was actually doing like, I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was like an Indiegogo or a GoFundMe to start shooting the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh fuck. And I didn't even realize it came out.
Yeah. The second one came out in 2021. And I can tell you, like, I didn't watch it all, but from what I watched, it goes so fucking far and it's great.
Oh, the first one, I don't remember the name, but I remember there was a cowboy character in the first one that I was obsessed with. That was so fucking funny.
The first one is like, it's so much like Thanksgiving in that like the characters are so annoying, they're stupid, they're awful, and like there's not a whole. And then there's some other scenes that are very Thanksgiving. So, but the second one has something in it that just grabbed me so. That I felt like we have to talk about them together. So,
all right, I'm excited to watch the second one. I'll rewatch the first one and then I'll go and watch the second one.
Yeah, so
awesome.
Carousel 1 and 2.
Right,
check them out on the Tubies.
So go to Carousel.
Stoked.
It's like a carousel, like one of them old up and down horse machines. When I saw up and down horse machines, I thought about
my latest porn research.
That's
stuck porn.
That's Meg's Pornhub search. Up and down horse machine. No, I was thinking it was that exercise bike that Mac has on his website in Philadelphia. The up and down horse machine. Anyway, so go check it out.
Pretty good.
Carousel, and then Carousel. Is it just Carousel 2?
Carousel the Second.
Carousel the second. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Go watch them on Tubi. We're going to discuss them next week. I'm pretty excited for that. And also, I guess we should probably mention we have, and we'll give you some more information on the next on that episode when we watch Carousel and Carousel the Second. Keep it on your calendars. October the 29th, we're going to be doing another live show at Hop Farm Brewing Company in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the Lawrenceville neighborhood, if you're familiar with it. We did that May Day one with Midsommar. We are going to do a really fun one this time around with a bunch of weird shit. It's going to be a fucking blast. Put it on the calendar, the 29th of October, which is a Saturday of Halloween weekend. Come on out and hang out with your gang here and do a little spooky ooky shit. They're going to have a big Halloween party. It's going to be super fun. So otherwise, check us out on the social medias and, do us all them reviews and all those kind of cool stuff. Anything else I'm forgetting?
No.
Nah, bro.
All right. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I am not bitter.
And I'm 2 movies for the double champ.
Fuck off.
All right. Fuck you, you spooky ooky bitches. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Me.